So here's how the rest of the draft played out. And the way they did it, of course, was FC Edmonton, having finished last at the Island Games. They chose first, and it was a bit of a snake down to 8. And then in the second round, it was Forge who was able to then choose first, going the other way around. So I don't know, Gareth. I don't see Western being represented there, but either way, some great players. There's Reggie Larea. We had mentioned him as well yesterday, Richie Larea's younger brother. So he being drafted there by Atletico Ottawa. You can see that. A lot of defenders as well getting chosen in that second round in particular. But I guess, Ollie, I love what Thomas said, where he almost kind of said, I don't care if I'm like this youth sport draft. I want to make an impact right away. I guess there's also this belief sometimes that if you're coming out of university, maybe they think it takes a little bit more time to get groomed. But he's ready to go. Where would you say that transition is from a youth sport athlete to playing in the Canadian Premier League?
Well, I think with Thomas Gardner and actually with Jackson Farmer, the other Edmonton pick as well, these two guys come into the league from U Sports, I think, way more experienced than the average U Sports draft pick, right? They both played in the USL for the Whitecaps B team under Alan Koch, so there's that familiarity there. Jackson Farmer's even played for Canada. He has a senior men's national team cap. So these aren't really the typical kind of draft picks coming out of U Sports, but I think we've seen some surprises over the first 2 years. Obviously Joe Waterman stands out, Peter Scharler, and especially some of the guys coming from Cape Breton. There's been some good programs built down there, and I think there are players that are ready straight away to go into the CPL. As I mentioned before, what benefit they'll get this year is that they're going to be able to go into training camps, get a bit acclimatized to their new team, show what they can do, something that was obviously hard to do in 2020 because of all the travel restrictions going on and things like that. So there absolutely is talent in this draft that has a chance to be impact meaningful players in 2021.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure the rules, like what I like about U Sports and having played in U Sports is that even when I played in the early 2000s, there was players who came back after professional exploitations overseas or even domestically that would come back into U Sports after sitting out a period of time and then get back to playing as they kind of pursued a further education. And what I liked about that is the level was always very good. There was a good mix between up-and-coming young players and more established players kind of looking at a second kick of the can at the Canadian university level. And the quality always has been good. There isn't that massive gulf between U Sports and the Canadian Premier League. In fact, a lot of the players have come out of U Sports program, so I think it really shines a positive light on what these programs can mean. And just echoing your sentiments on what FC Edmonton did today, and Gardner and Farmer, these are two players that Koch has worked with, two players that have been in an environment with that head coach, two players that I think are immediately going to slot in and help this group. Gardner, a creative player, Farmer, maybe a little bit more of an old school center back, but a player that can step right in and really improve FC Edmonton. They need to improve, and they're the big winners for me today. Andy, FC Edmonton bringing these two players in with the familiarity, the quality, and they're a team that needs better players. So I think that FC Edmonton really helped themselves out here today.
Just to add to that as well, one thing I think to watch out for from this draft is we saw a lot of teams go to kind of local and familiar players, Pacific, UBC, Cavalry, Mount Royal, schools like that. But we also saw a few teams go to Quebec, and that's something that in the CPL we're seeing more often after the success of Absi and Farsi and Sissoko and players like that. We know there's talent there that's maybe not getting scouted as much as it should do, and going a little bit untapped. And I think you see Forge go to Quebec, you see Valor, Halifax. These teams are trying to make sure that they don't let any of those players in Quebec who don't have a CPL team that's maybe looking at them closely. They're trying to make sure those players don't slip through the net. So I think that's an interesting dynamic to keep an eye on in some of the players selected too.
Just a couple other names to look out for, Andy. Christopher Campoli, I believe he went 4th overall to York United, a former TFC Academy player, very creative, really intriguing. Like, there's a real talent there, and I think York United will be very happy with that selection. Stefan Karjovanovic goes to Halifax, another guy that can put the ball in the back of the net with a team full of them. I think it's a really great draft pick for Halifax. And Victor Ishambusho, the best name name in this U Sports draft. Victory! He's got some pace. He plays on the wing. I think he can be a real difference maker as well. Not to mention, like I said, the best name and a name that we'll enjoy calling on a regular this coming Canadian Premier League
That's
season.
a dream for you.